Hello again. Today I'm finally going to describe how I dealt with myself and my friends and other people before I was diagnosed, and how I deal with myself and other people since having been diagnosed. So that's what's in store for today. So as I've stated before, I was diagnosed late in life. Many resources that are available for dealing with autism are actually mostly aimed at parents of young children to teach them early life coping techniques for dealing with the neurotypical world. And at 39, it was already way too late for me to form those habits. So I've had to wing it a lot in terms of figuring out what I needed to do differently. Struggle with changing my behavior and my expectations of myself. So we're going to talk about that today. In college, before I was diagnosed, I was described as abrasive more than once by more than one person. I think in hindsight that was a generous description. I typically would say inappropriate things when meeting people, would try to laugh them off as an unusual sense of humor. There were plenty of times when that didn't go so well. The biggest problem with me in terms of dealing with other people and groups of people was that when I got stressed out, I turned into a real dick. When I was producing a television show in college, they actually had a nickname for me as the Incredible Exploding Man, because that would inevitably happen. Ever since 8th grade, I've struggled on one level or another with just trying to understand other people's behavior. Things that people did and priorities that people had that just seemed completely strange to me. But they all shared it, so there just was constantly this undercurrent of, what's wrong with me? Why don't I care about that? Why can't I put up with that? That was rough. And so I apologize to any friends that I still have that I behaved like myself then. The single most significant change since being diagnosed is that my wife and I have been able to come up with strategies for me to deal with almost everything. Going in with some understandings and no longer assuming that I should be able to behave like everybody else, knowing in fact that it's impossible. And the result of going into these circumstances and situations and facing things in life in general with this new understanding and these strategies, the result overall has been an increased enjoyment of social interaction for me, even though it has also limited my social interaction. Now I know that I get overwhelmed by sensory overload. That's very common on the spectrum. Earlier in the day is better for me in general. Evening is usually not good at all. I'm better off only having one significant event per day. So in general, we have this approach of come early, leave early, with the knowledge that I may miss out on something by leaving early, like if it's a party. But the alternative, waiting around, means that I will be a dick by the time those people show up. So if possible, I try to avoid loud, crowded, hot, outdoor events. All of those things can lead to sensory overload and feeling overwhelmed. Parties are not great for me, even if I know most of the people there. I'm really better one-on-one with friends of mine. Maximum sort of comfortable ongoing group would be 4. That would be me and my wife to act as a deflector, and then 2 other people. So that does limit my social life to some extent, but it also makes it more enjoyable for everybody. So I try to do things indoors, I try to do them earlier in the day, and I try to be fed. So if I can't avoid things like parties or evening events or crowds or whatever, I still have, fortunately, developed some options for trying to keep myself under control and not get freaked out and unhappy. One is, I've referred to the come early, leave early approach. Basically trying to leave a situation, leave when I still have the capacity for some social graces to say goodbye to the people I care about before I get tapped out. If I'm at a party and I'm going to be there for a continued span of time or late into the evening or something for whatever reason, it helps in general if I take frequent breaks. And that means going where the people aren't. Go outside for a minute. A lot of times I'll go into the coat room, which is somebody's bedroom, tune out whatever was going on around me and play with my smartphone. It really allowed me to continue to be around people. So if I just have a chance to take a break, recharge internally, get lost in my own mind for even just a little while and can go back out and face the teeming masses. Breaks means that I disappear, and people will ask my wife, "What happened to Michael? Where'd he go?" or whatever. But that's part of how I have to cope. These techniques that I've just talked about generally apply mostly to familiar situations. Unfamiliar equals worse for me. It's more stressful. I get tapped out a lot more quickly, can say things that are inappropriate more quickly. A really good friend of mine got married a few years ago, and his bachelor party, organized by not me, fortunately. We meet at this unfamiliar pub in downtown Detroit, have food and drinks, and I know maybe a third or half of the people there. That was okay. And then after that was all done, we were going to head back to this hotel that had the casino in it. Fortunately, we'd gotten a hotel room at the hotel and casino, and I was going to meet up with everybody later. I just needed to take a break for a minute. And I wound up going up to the room and spending the whole night in the room. It was a bummer that I missed out on a lot of whatever the craziness was that went on in the casino and the bar and whatnot. But the upside is that I still have all those friends. I didn't get in a fight or freak out or start sobbing or just become a total mess. And if I had gone, the likelihood of that happening was much higher. So the message, if any, is that knowledge is power. That if I know going into a situation what the challenges are going to be, I can draw upon a small toolbox that I've assembled over time for ways to deal. I've been fortunate, too, that most of my friends have rolled with this change in behavior really well. I go and, will take privacy breaks or whatever during parties, and no one has ever actually given me a hard time about being gone. That speaks volumes of the quality of my friends. So if you're watching this, I appreciate it, and I'm glad to have you. That's it for this week. I appreciate, as always, your questions, comments, concerns, inquiries. Anything else you want to know about my life on the autism spectrum or anything you want me to clarify, just label those with the hashtag Autistic Snail. Keep the stories coming about how everything bad happened. Tell me about your life reloads as well. Remember to subscribe. Always helpful to subscribe. New updates every Thursday. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. When I get overwhelmed, so now, for example, the long-promised hello. Today I am going to discuss a little bit more. I have an itch. So all I have is myself.